Broadcasting to you on WNN 1470 AM and TrentoVision.tv from the world's leading think tank laboratory, buried deep in an undisclosed building in hostile territory where evil and corruption is exposed. You're about to enter the Tom Trento Show.
United West, a group that says it defends Western civilization against the onslaught of Islam.
Good evening, everybody, and it is Billy and Karen Vaughn again sitting in for Tom Trento, and we want to say a special hello to Tom and all the other TrentoVision team members that are in Israel right now, and want to thank Tom for allowing us to sit in for him and to share some of the news that we're trying to stay on top of and some of the stories and personal things in our lives. But we've got a great show set up for you today. And want to say first thank you to everybody listening on WWNN 1470 AM and also to everybody watching on TrentoVision TV, TrentoVision.tv, just in case you need that web address. And also a special thanks to the entire Tea Party community. You know, today Billy and I couldn't help but notice once again the news that SEAL Team 6 has been thrust into the spotlight on a national level yet again by this administration, and this is a very personal topic to us. We feel like those sort of antics led to the death of our son and 29 other brave American warriors who died on August 6, 2011 in the Tangi River Valley of Afghanistan. And Billy, why don't you tell everybody listening today just how this makes you feel that SEAL Team 6 is in the news?
Well, it's not just SEAL Team 6, it's also the Delta operators. There were two operations, special ops operations that took place over the weekend, and quickly on Sunday morning the news was out. Before the nation, before the world, who specifically, who the details were given of who these two operations were done by. There again, exposing these men and their families, making them vulnerable, the Delta Force and SEAL Team, to the enemy. And you would think that based on what happened before when SEAL Team 6 was exposed, that this administration would have learned a lesson. In fact, I think they have learned a lesson. In fact, I believe in my heart, this administration is on purpose compromising our special operators and the operations that they do. I think that this administration, led by President Barack Obama, is compromising, as I said, our special operators.
We have a really great show lined up today. We've got Jane Horton, a Gold Star wife, that's going to join us in just a few minutes here. And we also then in the second half of the show we've got retired Navy SEAL Benjamin Smith that's going to come on and join us to talk about operational security, personal security, how team guys feel when their units are outed by an administration, when these unprecedented acts against our fighting forces take place by people that should be trustworthy with the information that's given to them since they are in our national defense. But before we go to Jane Horton, I just want to touch on the ludicrousy of the CNN article. And if you could just put that headline up, Damon, the headline, excuse me, of the CNN article that we looked at yesterday before we came over here to shoot the show. And I just want to tell you, it's very insulting to us in particular to hear a CNN headline read like the first page of a Vince Flynn novel when you're talking about real men and women. And we think this aids to the dehumanization of the men who are actually fighting as special operators in Afghanistan in these wars on behalf of America. And just listen to this. Under the cloak of darkness, A team of U.S. commandos zoomed in by speedboat and sneaked up on their mark, a seaside villa in southern Somalia. It goes on to say it was before dawn on Saturday morning, late Friday night Eastern Time, when a squad stormed the house frequented by top militant commandos of the terrorist group Al-Shabaab. You know, and then just like they're excited about this next fact, they go on to say, but the mission didn't go as planned. A fierce firefight broke out, and the Americans had to withdraw, not knowing whether the person they were trying to get was dead or alive. But probably the most stunning thing to me about this article in particular was the last line, where it said the raid was led by members of the U.S. Navy Special Forces unit known as SEAL Team 6, the same unit that killed Osama bin Laden in Pakistan. Where have we heard that before? An administration official told CNN on Sunday. Now, when are we going to stop this nonsense?
Admiral McCraven, have some guts and stand up and protect the men who are protecting this country against terrorists. High-ranking military officials, General Dempsey, chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, grow a backbone. Grow a backbone. Have some spine, General Dempsey. Stand up. You'll stand up and ask American citizens to be quiet about their First Amendment rights. Stand up to this administration who is committing a breach of national security. Admiral McCraven, stand up. Stand up. You're a warrior. You've been a warrior in the past. You're a man with a brave heart. Stand up and defend the men who defend this country.
So we started out on this, and we're going to move away from this just a little bit to talk about, and I think this is a really important segue right here, because we want to talk to a woman. Do we have Jane Horton on the phone yet?
Yeah, give me a minute and I'll grab her.
Okay, just as Damon's getting that already, I just want to tell you, along the path of the last two plus years that Billy and I have spent since the death of our son in Afghanistan, we have met some phenomenal people in this time frame. They've walked into our life and they've made an impact on our life. And one of those women is Jane Horton. She actually lost her husband, Chris, in Afghanistan just about a month after we lost our son. And in the meantime, Jane and I became Facebook friends and finally met while we were both in Washington, D.C. on some of the work that we're both doing. And do we have Jane on yet? I want to introduce you guys to her.
Jane, are you with us?
Jane, you there?
Yes, Karen. Thank you so much for having me.
Hey, Jane, thank you so much for spending your time with us. I know you are a busy girl these days, and we're going to talk about all that in just a minute. But first, I want to show everybody that's watching right now, if you can put a picture of Jane up, I just want to show you how absolutely beautiful my friend is. And Jane, I hope you don't mind. We're going to be showing our viewing audience a few pictures of you and your precious husband, Chris. But I just wanted to start, it's very important to me that people see our defenders as human beings, people who leave behind family members that they love, family members that love them, people who walk into harm's way knowing that lives will be ruined if something should go wrong. I want America to understand these are not G.I. Joe plastic soldiers, that they're real human beings. So could you tell us a little bit about your precious Chris, please?
Yes, Karen. Thank you so much for bringing that up, and I totally agree with you 100% on that. And Chris was a professional sponsored shooter in the civilian world, and he owned his own private security company. And he joined the Oklahoma National Guard in 2008 because he wanted nothing more than to serve his country and defend his country, and he wanted to do his duty to the nation.
Can you tell me, he sounds like an astounding man, and you shared well, I'm going to move to that in just a minute, but I want to make sure and come back to the Facebook post you put up this morning. I've been reading a little bit about Chris, and it says that you and he both worked on New York Mayor Michael Bloomberg's 2005 re-election campaign, and you also both worked with the Mitt Romney campaign in 2008. Is that actually correct?
We both worked on the campaign together, and we were very involved in politics.
And is it true that Chris at one point even thought he might one day seek an elected office himself?
Yes, Chris actually wrote me a letter in basic training where he had said to me that he felt extremely guilty because he was starting to love me more than he loved his country. He felt such an honor and duty to his country, and that's why he wanted to serve, and he said he ultimately wanted to run for office one day, and he said that he felt so guilty that he would start to love one person above his country. And I just share that to kind of show the heart that he had. He truly loved America more than anything.
Wow, Jane, you literally just gave me chills from my head to my toes. You made a very touching post on Facebook this morning, and I wanted to tell our listening audience about that post. You made the observation that this war is now beginning its 13th year, and that you were 14 when this war started. And it really sunk, it's going to make me emotional. It really sunk in and kind of dug into my core when I read that, because you know, here you are, a very young woman, and in this time of war, you've grown up, you've gone to college, you've met the love of your life, and you've lost him. And if you could just reflect just a minute on what, how you feel, putting that all in perspective, that time frame, what has transpired in the 12 plus years since this war began, when you were just a freshman in high school or an 8th grader?
I think I was a freshman in high school. I remember actually one of my friends reminded me of this about a year ago, but we were at a school-sponsored event, and I remember saying to everyone there, you know, we're going to war today. You know, our lives are going to change forever. America is going to war. And I remember feeling the gravity of the situation at that point, but never did I ever expect that I would marry a service member, and never ever could I have ever imagined that I would be a 25-year-old widow, ever.
Yeah, it just doesn't make sense, does it? It just doesn't make sense. Well, you know, your husband was an amazing human being, and we're so thankful. And I know I get to tell you this on a personal level frequently, but Jane Horton, you are one of my American heroes. You truly are, because you fight for veterans' rights now. You didn't go to bed when you lost your husband. You decided to take the fight to the enemy and pick up the mantle that he had left with you. And Jane, right now, if you will, just tell the people listening what you're doing currently and where you are.
Right now we're driving through Arizona, and we're kind of in the middle of the desert, so I apologize if I am going in and out of service. But I am with Concerned Veterans for America on their Defend Freedom Tour. And for me, it's such a great honor, because I get to speak about 2 or 3 times a day. We're going to 13 states, about 27 cities, and around 40 different stops. We're talking about different issues that face veterans, such as the VA backlog, the national debt, which is the biggest security risk to our nation, several other issues. But for me, I get to talk about the cost of freedom and about how Chris gave his life for me. And when I was notified of his death, my first thought was never, oh my gosh, I'm alone. My first thought was, this man gave his life for me, and now it's up to me to live my life for him and to do all I can to defend the country that he and Aaron gave their lives for.
Right. And Jane, I'm going to be, we talked to our listeners last week and said I'm going to be joining you on this tour when we're in Orlando, Florida at the Villages in just about a week from today. I'll be joining you on this tour, and I'm so excited. There are some tremendous people traveling across the country right now talking about these concerns. And I just wanted to ask you, do you feel like you're getting a good response across America from the places you're stopping?
I do. I feel like we're getting a great response, and I think that Americans, especially today, I've seen several people extremely frustrated with the VA and with the government shutdown, and a lot of people aren't getting paid. They don't know what they're going to do, and today they shut down the VA phone line. So if you have a problem with the VA, there's no way you can get help, period.
Wow.
So I think people are ready to stand up, band together, and defend the country that they defended overseas. So I think that it's been a great response.
Have you had a lot of veterans, actual veterans, showing up to the rallies and offering their support for what Concerned Veterans for America is trying to accomplish here on this tour?
Yes, we have. At our first event, our kickoff event in Las Vegas, we had about 400 or more people. and we've had crowds of good 100, 200 people at all the other stops since.
That is phenomenal. That's absolutely phenomenal. It really makes my heart warm to know people are coming out. And Jane, please tell everybody on the bus that I am very anxious to meet everybody and to see some old friends. And I'm going to let you get off the phone. I know you're traveling through that desert, and I know you've got a lot of talking still to do today. But listen, Jane Horton, I love you like a daughter, and can't wait to see you next week.
I can't wait to see you either, and I'm so excited and honored to have you as a friend and to know you, and God bless you and Billy.
Thank you, Jane.
Thank you, Jane. Thank you for being with us.
We'll talk to you later. Tell everybody we said hi.
Okay. I will. Bye, Karen.
Okay,
Bye,
bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
You know, speaking of this Defend Freedom tour that Jane is on, one of the men that's on that tour, Billy, is Sean Parnell. And I have seen Sean on Fox News and some other television shows and stuff, but I had never heard his story until it was shared during this Defend Freedom tour. And I just want to read you a little excerpt from his book. Let's see, it is called Outlaw Platoon by Sean Parnell, if you guys want to look that up. It is the story about his time as an Army Ranger. He was a combat infantryman with the 10th Mountain Division. And in this little excerpt that I read that Jane shared with me, this really touched me. It really was precious to me to hear this man's heart, but also shocking to me as Americans that this is what our men are facing, that this is what they see on a daily basis while they're working in Afghanistan. And if you've got children listening to this right now, I'd say close their ears, send them in the other room, because this is graphic, but it's something I believe we need to know as Americans. I believe we need to stop covering our eyes and our ears from the truth of this enemy we're engaged in battle with. The American platoon stopped its Humvees in the road. Ahead, a small boy of about 6, dressed in rags, staggered in circles. Army Ranger Sean Parnell and his men were wary. It was July 2006, and they'd been in combat on the remote Afghanistan-Pakistan border for 5 months. When the soldiers moved close enough, they saw that someone had gouged out the boy's eyes and burned the sockets black with a heated instrument. His teeth had also been knocked out. We're talking about a 6-year-old little boy. Next is an expletive. "What is this?" in quotations, said a hard-bitten sergeant. In the nearby village, the unit's interpreter, Yusef, talked to an elder and learned what happened. The insurgents had swept through his village and punished the inhabitants for cooperating with the coalition, the U.S. They kidnapped the oldest grandson of the elder and took him to the mountains, where they gouged out his eyes and raped him for weeks. I did not say hours. I did not say days. I said for weeks. The platoon medic did what he could for the boy and other brutalized children in this place the men came to call the village of the damned. The elder thanked them and they drove on, even the toughest among them stunned by what they'd seen. "There's not a day goes by," said Parnell, "that I don't think about it. All I know is that moment taught me that there is definite good and evil in this world." And that's one thing that Billy and I say about Aaron. One of the proudest things we were about our son is that from a very early age, he was able to understand that there is good and evil in this world. And that there are people who mean to do us harm and cannot be negotiated with and cannot be reasoned with. They hate. Their lives are full of hate. Yet this administration seems hell-bent on making them our friends. And it just doesn't make any sense to me or to anybody that I know who's lost a family member in this godforsaken land called Afghanistan. Sean Parnell goes on very quickly to say this captures the dichotomy of Afghanistan, the contrast between Americans and terrorists. And, you know, like Billy said last week when we were in here, you know, and you said that, you know, Hillary Clinton was outraged when Marines urinated on Taliban, on dead Taliban soldiers. I don't think that they have a concept of what true evil is, or they could not express outrage over such a simple act. But just going on real quickly, because we want to get Ben on the phone here in just a minute. It turns out, just to finish the story off briefly, Yusef, it turns out, was a spy. But the elder whose grandson was tortured was the opposite. and later risked his life and walked 40 miles through the mountains to warn the Americans of an impending attack. And that's Afghanistan. That incident, Parnell says, is a microcosm of the whole country. And you know, I just want you to soak this in for a second and think about this war that we're in, where our administration and even our high-level military officials, Billy, will not name the enemy we're in battle against, but they expect our men and our women to continue fighting this war with a nameless, faceless enemy. And they continue putting our brave, fearless, volunteer military warriors in compromised positions where they're forced, like we talked about last week, to work alongside people who they have no idea whether or not they can trust. And, you know, and by the way, this is something that we're going to talk about just real quickly. In the bottom of the article, Billy and I found this particularly interesting when Sean made the following statement. He had shipped off for Afghanistan in 2006 to take command of a 40-man platoon nicknamed the Outlaws, with the goal of, and here's the key word, rooting out the Haqqani network near the Pakistan border. Billy, can you explain to our listeners and viewers why that's significant, 2006?
The Haqqani network in 2006, our Army Rangers are rooting them out. In 2011, in the military documents that we have of the investigation of the crash, the men, officers in the military who are explaining who we're fighting over there, the Taliban and Al-Qaeda, list the Haqqani network as the most lethal terror network that our forces encounter and engage in Afghanistan. And you go back quickly to 2006, that we were fighting this group then, trying to root them out. But in September of 2012, then Secretary of State Hillary Clinton made the public statement that in a week or so, before the congressional deadline, she would decide whether to call the Haqqani network, put them on our terror watch list and actually call them terrorists or not. Just how out of touch is this administration and the people who stand on the stage there. If you think about the people who stand on the stage and how far out of touch they are with our American people and also with our military, it's plain to see how much danger we are in this nation and when our men and women go abroad to engage the enemy. In fact, looking back to the man who wore the clown mask, the mask of President Obama, the clown with the mask on of Obama, I think a more proper picture would be President Obama standing on the stage with the clown mask on. And all of these clowns who he has in his administration, John Brennan in the CIA, who's a Muslim, then Secretary of Clinton, Hillary Clinton, who said, what difference does it really make about Benghazi? Secretary of State now, John Kerry, who compared our military to Genghis Khan. John Clapper, who said that the Muslim Brotherhood is a secular organization and not dangerous to our country. Donna Rice, who went, now head of the National Security Agency, who went on TV knowing that she was lying for weeks, even about the video that led to the deaths, saying that that's what led to the deaths in Benghazi, and then even President Barack Obama standing before the United Nations, before the world, weeks later, still claiming it was video when everybody practically in America knew that it was a planned attack by Islamic radical Islamists. So the clowns are there. The problem is we can't laugh at these clowns because they're leading our country. And they're making it more dangerous every single day for the American citizens and especially our men and women who are in harm's way.
Which is what Billy and I have dedicated our lives to, is exposing the truths of what's actually happening to our military. And speaking of that, I know we promised you we were going to get retired Navy SEAL Benjamin Smith on the phone, and he is with us, and we want to move on to him right now. Before we change to him, I just want to say, Billy, going back to the leaks, and that's what we're primarily going to be talking to Benjamin about today, is the national security leaks that are damaging our warriors' chances of coming home. And I just want to know, with all the things that you know about Afghanistan, or don't know about Afghanistan really, because that's another point I'd like to make, is it not dangerous enough? Is it not dangerous enough without their administration, their commander-in-chief and his cronies putting them in further danger? Is it not dangerous enough? As a mom with a dead son, I've had it with this stuff. I've had it. And we're going to get Navy SEAL Ben Smith on here to talk about this. And before you guys start talking, I'm going to pretty much turn this over to Billy and Ben, because they've become just like a father-son team right now. But I just want to say one thing. Why is it that we get play-by-play on every single thing that Navy SEALs or Army Rangers or SEAL Team 6 members do, but nobody's covering the war? Why is it? I mean, it's just a good question, is it not? What's going on here? We don't want to know about the war, but we want to know about specific raids. We want to jump in on theatrical raids when these men, they will live and die by their privacy. They will live and die by their national security, and they're being outed. It's happening constantly. And if this administration did not learn anything from August 6, 2011, shame on them. And it's like Billy said, I'm beginning to believe that it's intentional.
Here's a quote from the timeline that you sent me for the show from May 12, 2011. Defense Secretary Robert Gates expresses concern about the White House leaks. Quote, "Frankly, a week ago Sunday in the Situation Room, we all agreed that we would not release any operational details from the effort to take out bin Laden," Gates said. "That all fell apart on Monday. The next day, Gates' response was prompted by a question from a Marine and a medical logistics company who asked, quote, "what measures are being taken to protect the identities and the lives of the SEAL team members, as well as the lives of military forces deployed that might have to face extreme retaliation from terrorist organizations that want to have those identities known." Unbelievable. Yes, Benjamin, you with us?
Yes. I didn't know that was my prompt.
I think I missed the cue, Ben.
We're just getting used to this, Ben.
Hey, Ben, how you doing?
All good. I'm okay. I'm actually on my way to another interview as well on a lot of the things we're going to be talking about here. I know I was listening to you guys talking about, war on terror and what we're doing, rules of engagement. The thing is, with America and how the paradigm that we operate within in a war on terror, what is terror? With America, if you name it and make it a target, we can identify it. If you make it a target, we can shoot it. If you call it a country, we can crush it. Where bombs, bullets, and guns really can't hurt America. Bad economy, bad politics, not calling terrorism or Islamic extremism what it is. You can call it a million different things, and now we're supplying our enemies in the war on terror with guns and forces, and we're going out there and doing their missions. It's become a goat rope, a kludge of what's going on, whose side are we on. I've got friends from overseas who I talk with are asking, what side are you guys on? We're jumping all over the board now, and we're saber rattling. We're not following through from on high with threats that we make. We're starting to really come apart at the seams. And then you go towards the opposite, operational security. You've got the bin Laden raid, where pretty much right after it happened, they came out and identified who did it, who they got, where it was, and what forms of intelligence and the amount of it that they got. Just the mention of it alone said to terror or whoever the bad people are in this world that we will not name, that to go black, to go dark, stop what you're doing and change it because they got they got bin Laden, and there's huge intelligence there. So it's like we've just got a lot of issues with media being on the government side and not the people's side. It's supposed to be the other way around.
Ben, let me make a point there. Going back to bin Laden, on May 1st, just let me give you a timeline, folks. On May 1st, 2011, on orders, American special operators found and eliminated Osama bin Laden. On May 1st, 2011, President Obama gave a speech announcing the demise of Osama bin Laden. On May 3rd, 2011, Vice President Joe Biden makes a speech revealing Navy SEALs were employed during the raid and the bin Laden takedown in Pakistan. On May 4th, 2011, Aaron, our son, called Karen, deeply concerned about the safety of our entire family and the Special Operations Forces because of the outing of the Navy SEALs, or the breach in national security, we now know, by Vice President Joe Biden. On May 6, 2011, Vice President Joe Biden, Brigadier General Jeffrey Colt, and President Obama spoke at Fort Campbell, Kentucky. And Joe Biden again elaborated about the Navy SEALs and their role in the takedown of bin Laden. On May 6, 2011, the Taliban vows revenge for the death of Osama bin Laden. They say the blood of the holy warrior Sheikh Osama bin Laden, God bless him, is too precious to us and to all Muslims to go in vain. The statement said, we will remain, God willing, a curse, chasing the Americans and their agents, following them outside and inside their countries. On May the 11th, 2011, data collected in the official investigation of the shootdown of Extortion 17 revealed that more than 100 Taliban insurgents were moving into the Tangi River Valley, according to the files, to shoot down a NATO chopper. And let me just interject right there quickly. But that did not change our military's modus of operation in Afghanistan. We still sent our American warriors out in antiquated CH-47D Chinooks with no pre-assault fire and no cover from above, with ridiculous rules of engagement that tied their hands. And let me say right there one thing along that due to this timeline and the way that we were operating and the things that I've just told you about, that a calamity like Extortion 17 was bound to take place. And then on May 12th, 2011, Secretary of Defense Secretary Robert Gates expressed concern about the White House leaks. And then in July...
Well, you know what?
Go ahead.
Hold on just a second. We have a video of that Robert
Okay.
Gates interview. If you guys can cue that up. And actually, last night was the first time that I had actually watched the entire interview that is online on YouTube. You can find it. Do you guys have that ready by any chance? Okay, watch this, because I had no idea what question was asked that prompted this very famous response. And Ben, hang with us just a second. We're going to get back to you about your thoughts on this.
Good morning, sir. Chip Castillo from Medical Logistics Company. I'm going to go a bit out of the norm questions here. I understand that the answer to this question might be limited or not at all due to security reasons, but with the recent events with Osama bin Laden and the named SEAL Team 6, what measures are being taken to protect the identities and the lives of the SEAL Team members, as well as the lives of military forces deployed that might have to face extreme retaliation from terrorist organizations that want to have those identities known?
Well, I think, first of all, there is an awareness that the threat of retaliation is increased because of the attacks, or because of the action against bin Laden. I think that there has been great, frankly, a week ago Sunday in the Situation Room, we all agreed that we would not release any operational details from the effort to take out bin Laden. That all fell apart on Monday, the next day. We are very concerned about the security of our families, of your families, and our troops. and also these elite units that are engaged in things like that. And without getting into any details, and I would tell you that when I met with the team last Thursday, they expressed a concern about that, and particularly with respect to their families.
So, so you see here, it wasn't just Aaron. This was official. The whole Special Operations community was concerned. And then on June 24th, Ben, I'm going to let you come in there in just a second. On June 24th, Aaron's 30th birthday, CIA Director Leon Panetta then disclosed the particular unit, the name of this particular unit that was in that did the Bin Laden raid. And Panetta's leak was sealed by this administration until after his retirement. And then on June 2011, the Taliban members made good on their promise, attempting to take down a chopper with RPGs. And then on August 6, 2011, we know what happened to SEAL Team 6, 5 SEAL Team 6 support, 17 Navy SEALs, 30 American warriors in all, 1 dog, and 8 Afghans. In the largest loss in the history, one-day largest loss in the history of the war in Afghanistan. Now, Ben, continue. I know I've been talking a long time, so how does this play out? How do the men in this community feel about this going on?
Well, it goes every which way, because there's the guys on the operations. They're, you know, we're silent professionals. We don't want recognition. We don't want anybody. We don't join up for popularity or to be the heroes that they're trying to make us in the political realm to get somebody either reelected or to sway the news away from something else happening in the world. We do this for the country. We do this for a belief that we have that we're free. We understand that, and it's not for anything. It's just just that we're even talking about this now really starts, because, like, you know, you've got the Al-Shabaab SEALs doing the attack, and then you've got you know, Benghazi, you've got everything. They're trying to just put it out there, and we as silent professionals, and I don't speak officially for the community or anything like that. I was just Mark I Motto SEAL that just did what he was told to do. But a lot of this, when I'm speaking to some of the guys, it's absolutely ludicrous. It's not within what we're doing. It's so hard to put words to what's happening, because it seems like it's just getting out of control. It's getting out of our hands. Why is it all of a sudden you're seeing people wearing like Navy SEAL T-shirts, like Miley Cyrus T-shirts? You know what I mean? It's like right. Commonplace. We're becoming chewed bubblegum. And, you know, you see also, like, just bringing it out to even, like, yet the other day with the SEALs doing a hit on Al-Shabaab. And then you've got now, you know, this is either a small prediction. You see what they're doing now. You hear Delta Force being talked about.
Absolutely.
When it doesn't exist either. You're going to start seeing them being outed and talked about in the public sector. But it's every operator, every veteran, anybody who knows what's going on in this world and has seen the world other than what the news gives to them, they are not happy about this information getting out. The world knowing about, we've got ships moving somewhere, we've got SEALs deployed here and this deployed there. That's giving away everything that we have. And you've got movies that give away our way we move, the way we do everything as a community.
You know what, Ben? Let me interrupt you right there, because one thing that just infuriated me yesterday when I was doing research on this Somalia raid is that on CNN's website, they actually, I think you've got a picture of this. I think, I don't know, the picture might just be of Barbara Starr, but they actually showed a Google Earth image of the insertion point where the SEALs went in to do the raid on the village. Now, how insane is this? There is an insertion point on Google Earth.
Let me say, it looked like a good movie, except these are real men with real families, real lives, taking bullets.
With real blood.
Dodging bullets, and nothing about it is fake. And Ben, you made a good point a while ago when you talked about now that we are arming the enemy, and American citizens need to know and realize we're funding both, Americans are funding both sides of this war on terror. We're funding the American troops who fight, the American warriors, the NATO warriors. America is the big boy on the block. We're doing most of the funding. We're also funding the Al-Qaeda forces in Syria and in other places now who are fighting our warriors. So the American citizen is being drained on this, while at the same time our republic is being made weaker and our warriors' blood is being shed unnecessarily. In fact, I would venture to say that this administration has more responsibility on their hands for the shed of American blood than the Al-Qaeda forces, than the Islamic radicals that we are fighting today. That more bloodshed lies at the feet of the White House and high military leaders than it does at the feet of the enemy. Ben?
Well, Billy, to dovetail on that point, if you are aiding and abetting the known enemy of your country, America, at war, you know, that would be, that's high treason. If you are working against your country, your Constitution, that is high treason. And you know what? They're doing it with our money.
Yes.
Is that not treason upon us? Because we are sitting idly by and letting this happen. We're looking at it and we'll point fingers and we're doing nothing. And everyone is just sitting there talking about it as in like, hey, that's wrong. What is the recourse for this? How does everyone, because they're using our money to do it.
Absolutely.
How do you stop that?
That's a $64,000 question, because even patriots, men like you, men like Jerry Boykin and people like that we respect greatly. Just use him for an example. We're sitting here with our jaws dropped. We can't believe this is happening in front of our very faces today in our republic. If we look back at history, we have to look at how long the colonists pled and begged the British tyrants to please do the right thing by the colonies before they were willing to take up arms against their government. And this government today just keeps on shoving it down our throat today. Karen, you know, the World War II monument is closed, the memorial is closed, but Karen told me on the way to the station today, the World War I memorial is open because nobody's attending it. We just heard on the radio a while ago that the veterans...
So it's just harassment.
Yeah, so it's just harassment. We heard a while ago on the phone from Jane Horton that the veterans phone lines now, the Veterans Administration phone lines are dead today because of the government shutdown. This government is harassing its citizens. Soft tyranny, not yet enforced by the barrel of a gun.
I've got one better than that. You might or might not have heard, both of you. Did you know that the Amber Alert system was shut down today?
Yeah.
The Amber Alert system.
But guess what's still going?
Move on.
And
Michelle's
program.
website. Yeah,
right.
Michelle's
website's up. Amber Alert was down. It has
Don't worry about the missing kids. Worry about kids that might get fat.
Yeah. I mean, for crying out loud.
Let's let Ben come back in here. Ben?
That's all good. I'm not advocating violence in any means. Anybody who's been there knows that once it starts, it doesn't stop.
That's right.
We have something special here in this country, and do we have a chance to save it? That's up to anybody listening. It's just amazing to hear you guys and to hear your fight and to hear you narrate it from your point of views. It's inspiring to hear, family members of soldiers that are out there fighting every day pick up that flag where their sons have gone down. You know, we are all sons of America. We are all sons of liberty. And I don't know. I'm just absolutely giving you guys kudos for the fight and all the tears that I've seen come from your eyes in just talking about your son and what we all do and what we're all doing now. You know, I think our country is very lost. Not lost as in gone, but lost as in not knowing the way.
Drifting. We're adrift. Mm-hmm.
And just like Billy said, our jaws are on our chest because we do not know what to do, which makes me raise a question. And you could probably answer this question for Billy and I. We were talking this morning about this, and we said, is it not time with the special operations community that some special operations commanders march on the White House and demand this nonsense be shut down? Are they, I'm talking about the men directly responsible for you, not all the way up to Admiral McCraven, but the men directly responsible for your watch care in the field of battle. Is it not time, Ben, that they make a move on Washington and say enough bloodshed of our men? We will not allow this any longer. What can they do? Do they have any position to do anything, or is the rank and file so set in stone that they've got no options either? Help us, our listening audience, understand what this issue, where this roots, and what can't be done.
Oof, that's a very complex issue. You know that there's what part of that do you want me to go at first?
Tread lightly, Ben.
Well, there's the oath of service that we all pledge. It's to follow the orders of the president, the officer duly appointed above you, to protect and to defend the Constitution of the United States against enemies, both foreign and domestic, and to not follow unlawful orders. The thing is, there's a lot of things going on to where there's orders coming down that, you know, if you've got to say no to them as per your oath, to where you will not obey unlawful orders or something against the Constitution, i.e. treasonous activities, that gives you, I think, an opportunity to at least say something, to raise your voice, but then you're locked in via your oath again. You do not have, in the military, you do not have your Constitution, you do not have your Bill of Rights, you do not have your First Amendment to say what you feel. When you get out, it's a lot of this is up to the veterans that are out of the service. The people who mean to protect us will do so. The real Americans in service will absolutely do so, but the veterans that are out of the service have to start standing up. We don't have leaders in this country who have served. It's down to less than 20% of our elected leaders who have served in the military, who have eaten dirt with other Americans, who understand what it is. I would say that boot camp or spec op training is some of the last bastions of the rugged individualism, the American exceptionalism that is out there. But in the service itself, you have to trust that the people we have there will not take orders that are antithetical to our Constitution, which give powers to the president, which give powers to the officer duly appointed above you. Those types of things, our people, our children, and the younger people in the military do not understand the Constitution and, say, pati comitatus, which is arguably null and void via the NDAA and stuff. But I have, actually, I have a kid that I mentored who is in the service, won't be named here, but he did the ethical classes and was grilling the younger grunts, the guys who would be kicking your doors down here in America. You know, they were talking about if we went into, you know, somebody's house, like, you know, Hurricane Katrina, and, you know, here's the problem. Like, if you're listening to this, you're my subordinate, and I'm your officer. we're in there. We know the guy. The guy's a former Marine. We're upstairs talking to him, seeing if they're okay. He's showing us the guns and all that kind of stuff. And, you know, hey, for your safety, sir, we're just going to take your weapons. And, you know, I turn to you or whoever's listening and say, you know, just grab the guns off the bed. We got to get going back to base, or, you know, get going to the next house and secure it, make everything's okay. What is your reply to me?
Mole on the bay.
No.
Yeah,
He's
the thing
talking
is,
about the class.
the replies
Yeah.
that this officer was getting was just a straight out, you know, yes sir, whatever you say. You're you know, and he brings it over to the oath. He's like, you're the officer duly appointed above me, and if there's a little flack, he says, well, the president is ordering you to do this. And nobody ever made it past this, barely past the first one and the second one. The young guys just know to follow the orders of the person who tells them without understanding why or what they are fighting for.
Absolutely.
And in not understanding it, they will be the guys who will say yes, because the answer to that is, this is not even an argument we should be having, because you do not, military does not do any actions on our soil. You know what I'm saying? So the functionality of no sir is almost defunct, because, you know, you see a lot of, in the military, above 04, which is, it's a lieutenant commander, or the Army ranks. It turns into peer-reviewed advancement. The officers around you kind of say, you know, you're a good guy and all that type of stuff, and the rank above you kind of says, okay, we want that guy. And there's a certain point where you can see, I'm not pointing at anybody, I'm just,
Well, let's just say you touched on a couple key things there very early on. You talked about the Constitution. You talked about enemies, foreign and domestic. You know, warriors need to know we have domestic enemies. We have domestic enemies today. We have domestic enemies in some offices, elected offices in our country, and more especially in appointed offices. And then you also talked about the military not legally, according to the Constitution, not being able to turn their guns on the American people. But remember that this American president said before he was elected that we should have, it would be his goal to have a citizen military, as well armed and as well financed as our American military. And we have seen the arming of organizations in this country, government organizations, NOAA, the IRS, and Department of Homeland Security, and right on down the line. That so today, should the American military stand and do what's right, and not turn their guns on the American citizen, should, God forbid, that ever come about, this man in the White House has armed people who will be able to wage war with the law-abiding, Constitution-loving, Constitution-obeying American citizen, Ben.
Yes. Well, to take it there, again, people have... our government is based on checks and balances. One house checks the other.
Right.
You know, our leaders, the president, the Senate, and the House of Representatives. But what people are missing is, you know, in this light, you know, we're going this way, the Second Amendment. It's a well-regulated militia, and it doesn't mean the government controls a militia. It just means a well-disciplined militia. And
Absolutely.
You say militia, people start saying, you know, you're crazy, you're violent, and all that type of stuff. All that is a citizen's militia. If he says, you know, hey, you know, a citizen army, you know, go for it. Basically what a militia is a gun club where the people in this gun club can shoot and move together and think a lot of the same things and are in communications with each other and other gun clubs in the areas. That's basically a check and balance, because bombs, bullets, and guns are enemies. You can say Russia, you can say China, you can say Islam, whatever. They understand through our history, if you touch us and we can identify that you're the bad guy, you will always lose, and you will lose fast and in a hurry. So the path of least resistance is you use against the enemy what their strength is, and it's our freedom. It's our letting everybody. We think the normalcy bias is, if I leave you alone, you're going to leave me alone, and that's wrong. There has been people who understand that bombs and bullets won't get us, so they're going to change our minds. It's harder to beat us than to just change our minds and turn us into automatons. So we the people have to become more together and understand that there is. This is purely logical for in the subset of analyzation of what's going on. The people in government or the elected officials have become a ruling class, and
absolutely, yeah.
You see the disparagement between the people who are governing us. They're not subject to the same laws that we are.
Right.
They're making more money and all that type of stuff. What if they are actually, they can be, and arguably so, against the citizenry of the country, to put them into a spot where they are broke or hungry or weak enough to where they have absolute control, and it becomes a passed down, inherited aristocracy. It becomes basically a feudalism. It becomes a
Benjamin,
Ben, we're going to have to. We got about 2.5 minutes left.
Can I ask him a quick question?
Yeah,
Benjamin, this is Damon. I just, what we were talking about earlier about the young soldier just responding that, hey, I just do what my officer tells me. It's, the old saying, mine is not to wonder why, mine is just to do or die. And, is that basically it? I mean, don't wonder why you're doing something. Just, if that's my order, that's my order.
You're not a gladiator. Hail Caesar, from those about to die, we salute you. No.
Well, Ben, don't you think this is going straight back to our classrooms also, where children are no longer being taught American? I mean, not to just dive off in a whole other way, but don't you think that's why our military is being funneled into now by students who were raised in a generation where they were not even taught the Constitution or what citizens' constitutional rights are? Do you think that this is having an influence on our military?
That is absolutely an amen. The reason, the crooks right there. First thing Hitler did when he started going into countries in Europe was he changed the education system.
Right.
You've got Common Core, you've got all that type of stuff. It's happening in our country. And you know what? You don't have to beat somebody if you can just change their mind and have them do your dirty work for you.
That's right.
And you start with the children.
And there has never been a despot taken over in history without taking the people's guns first.
Yeah. It's been done throughout history, and this is just cyclic behavior of the human frailty that we're experiencing.
Well, listen, Ben, we've just got about 30, 40 seconds left, but I just wanted to tell everybody listening on WWNN 1470 AM and watching on TrentoVision.tv, I just want to say to you, Ben, we thank you so much for what you do, because you are a man who walked out of the military, then walked onto the national scene in another fashion, and you were still defending and protecting America. And, I want to tell everybody really quickly, too, that not only does Benjamin protect and defend America by working tirelessly, he also comes and helps in our Operation 300 camps, comes and mentors little boys. This man is a great inspiration to America. Thank you so much, Ben, for being with us. And thank you, everybody who listened today.
Yep. Thank y'all.